We're the Biblio Besties.
And today we're doing our O.W.L.s Wrap Up video. So, all last month we took part in the O.W.L.s Readathon, which is hosted and created by Book Roast.
Yes.
So we couldn't take part in the O.W.L.s since we were travelling during the month of April when they when they originally took place.
Oh, I just didn't know that.
So last month when they were doing the Newts, we did our O.W.L.s instead.
Yeah.
So we're going to wrap up what we read from.
We were supposed to be two different things.
Yeah, I originally was going to be a healer.
I was going to be a mind medic.
But I wasn't going to read enough books, so I had a last minute change. So I completed all the challenges to be a metal charmer.
I always wanted to be a Hogwarts professor.
Well, now
I don't know.
True.
Well, yeah, I don't know why it changed. I'm not really sure what happened there. But I am a Hogwarts professor of Care of Magical Creatures. That's the subject I choose to teach. Lucy, your first O.W.L. that you had to take was
Ancient Runes.
Oh, me too.
Perfect. So Ancient Runes was a retelling.
We both read a graphic novel.
Yeah. So I read Fables, Volume 2, Animal Farm by...
Is this the one you want me to read?
I think you'll like this, by Bill Willingham. So Fables basically is like a retelling of all like fairy tales. They've basically been outlawed from their Fables land. All types, so like Snow White is the deputy mayor, the big bad wolf is like the town sort of private investigator type character. And yeah, so they've all been outlawed, and most of the Fables live in like the real world now, underground basically in real society, but a lot of the Fables who are like Shere Khan and like rabbits or mice or the free pigs, they can't live amongst people because they talk, so they have to live on a farm upstate, and this one is basically about them trying to sort of take over the farm and go back to try and live in the real world. They're basically fed up of being on the farm. I really like this. It's like a spin on Animal Farm, the novel by George Orwell. Yeah, that's why I said it.
Oh.
That's why.
Oh, it actually is?
Yeah, it is. It's like a spin on Animal Farm, like a take on that. It's really good. I think it's really well written. I do really enjoy this series. I'm definitely going to be picking up the next one.
Exciting.
I think I rated this 4 stars. Maybe not. What have you got
My
next?
Ancient Runes retelling was Vampire Academy, the graphic novel. We semi-cheated for this.
Me?
Well, Rachel semi-cheated.
I didn't cheat.
I'd take this. Lucy confirmed that this was an okay as a retelling.
Yeah, because it's a retelling of the book, she said.
Yes.
So that is yeah.
I rated this 5 stars on Goodreads.
Okay.
Because I know what happens throughout the whole series, so I loved it. Whereas if you only read this, you would be clueless. You would have. There's no character development. There is no relationship development.
So maybe it's more.
No background. No. There is literally nothing. If you just read this, you are clueless. So I do want to take back my 5 star.
Maybe more of a 4 star.
I honestly, the art's great, the story.
Yeah.
So it gave me my Vampire Academy fix that I quickly needed.
But maybe it wasn't as good as...
But
if I read that, like, as going into it with no knowledge of anything...
You'd think it was rubbish.
Okay.
Absolutely. Trash. So, read it, don't read it.
Okay, so my next one was arithmancy. The challenge is multiple authors.
Yeah.
So I read another graphic novel. I read Volume 1 of American Vampire, which is by Scott Snyder and Stephen King. So this is sort of like an old... It's set... So there's 2 parts. Each chapter, there's a chapter in sort of the present day 1925 storyline, and then there's sort of a background to the main vampire, sort of his origin story from sort of the Old West times.
Oh, so present day isn't actually present day.
That's why present day is 1925.
Wait, how many storylines are there?
That's the sort of like when it's set. And I really, really liked the present day 1925 because it's sort of like an old Hollywood setting.
I don't think I've ever read or seen anything set in the
The main woman in it, who's a vampire, she is like an actress in the 20s, like an extra. She works like 5 jobs. And I thought her story was really interesting. But then she meets a vampire then, and then we learn about him. He's sort of like he was the first American vampire. So most vampires were from Europe, but then I sort of have a bit of a problem with like the Old West sort of setting. It's just not my sort of thing.
We got cowboys.
It's sort of in a way. So yeah, I really liked.
Vampire.
I did really like the artwork and I liked the story, but
so the important things clearly.
I just, again, because it's vampires, I really tried to get into it and I did like it, but I didn't love it. So I'm giving this 3 stars. I think
You're not a vampire gal.
Maybe more of a 3.5 star.
My next owl that I had to take was Care of Magical Creatures, which is, you know what I'm gonna teach in because I'm basically Hagrid. So I read The Black Coats by Colleen Oakes, which that is just so good to say. And the challenge for this was you had to read a land animal on the cover, and there's a little weeny snake head there, which is enough of a land animal.
Isn't there one on the back?
Yeah, it's exactly the same one on the back. So I took this as a win. I loved this. I went into this not knowing a single thing. I just heard, I literally think I heard one person talk about it and they didn't like it. But it came into my library app, so I listened to the audiobook and I started really getting into it and liking it, and I was like, I need to get the physical copy to read along.
Yeah.
And it was really good. It's about these like a secret society of like women, but it's like teenagers in school.
Okay.
And then the women like recruit them, and they like give justice to like men who have wronged women or women who have wronged women, and it's kind of about that kind of story. Is beating up a guy because they beat up a girl actually
helpful
going to change anybody's mind or doing anything like. So it was interesting on that kind of thing. Thoroughly enjoyed this. I gave it 5 stars. I do recommend reading this, but just because it didn't have vampires in doesn't mean that it can't have a 5 star.
The next novel I'd take was Charmed, which was reading adult work.
Yes,
so
that is
I
correct.
read Sweet Sorrow by David Nichols. This is like my most anticipated read of the year. I was
such a nice cover.
Sweet Sorrow is about this. It follows like Charlie, who has just left school and he doesn't really have any direction in life. He's had it pretty hard. He doesn't think he's passed any of the exams. His parents have just got divorced. He's a bit like, doesn't really know what he's going to do. He doesn't think he's going to go to college. So he sort of spends his summer, the first sort of weeks of summer, sort of like just cycling around his town. And then on one of his cycles, he meets this like girl while he's out reading his book in a field one day, and he takes her back to the house, and it turns out they're sort of all like a theatre society where they're putting on a Shakespeare play, and he's a bit like, this is really stupid. I don't like Shakespeare, but he wants to try and get this girl's number, so he keeps coming back. And he sort of ends up sort of like, it's like one of those nice coming of age stories where, and so he sort of like falls in love with this girl.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's sort of like a classic sort of David Nichols type of story. So I really like this. I gave this 4 stars. I thought it was a really nice way, like he had a really nice protagonist. I really liked the characters. I thought the setting it against a Shakespeare play and then rehearsing it was really well done. They did Romeo and Juliet.
No, spoilers.
They did Romeo and Juliet, so it was sort of like a good contrast between their sort of love story and Romeo and Juliet and the tragedy.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so it has a really nice way. There was a few issues with it, like he's telling the story as if like happened 10 years ago. When,
telling it to kids.
And so he's telling it like in past tense, and then every now and then there'd be like a few pages where it's like
present
him
tense.
in his present day, and they felt really out of place. And then the ending is sort of like powers through like a load of time, and I'm like, oh, that was a bit quick.
What happened here?
Yeah, like, so the ending sort of is a bit fast, but I really liked the story and I did really enjoy reading it.
Next, I took Defense Against the Dark Arts, which had to begin with R, and I read Renegades. And if
you have a lot to say about Renegades,
and if you watched our first video, I said Marissa Meyer is one of my favourite authors. I can now say incorrect. I think I might continue with the next book.
So you
but
how long did it take you to read
this? Took me forever. This took me about
quite
a
big,
month to read. But oh god, it was so boring. Nothing happened for a superhero
What's
book.
it about? I've known nothing about this.
So Nova is like, they're called the Anarchists, which is like the evils.
Okay.
They're like an underground bad guys. So the Renegades they are basically the government, and the Anarchists have kind of been beaten down and they're one of the bad guy groups and they're like living underground, and Nova is like a secret member of like nobody knows that she was it's not confirmed that she was a bad guy, so she kind of tries to infiltrate the Renegades from the inside, so she joins them and there's like secrets.
You see, I can see your issue here now, because that sounds like it should be really exciting.
Yeah.
Like it sounds like there should be a lot of action.
It's all superheroes.
Yeah.
Literally nothing happened. For such a long book, nothing happened. And like, this is the American one, so this is tall as well.
Oh, okay.
So like, I liked the characters, the story was interesting, but it did take forever. But I've seen so many people who have absolutely loved this. So don't let me put you off. Do give it a go. But if it wasn't for this challenge, I probably would have DNF'd it.
Yeah.
And also, if it wasn't for the fact that I bought this when I was in America, I would have DNF'd it. But I probably will read the next one.
Did you give it?
I gave this a 2.75. Also, the twist at the ending. In the prologue of this, I guessed the epilogue, which was the big twist that shocked everyone, and I was like,
in the first 10
I'm
pages,
pretty sure I wrote. No, it wasn't the prologue. The prologue was phenomenal.
Oh, okay.
But in the thing, I'm pretty sure I wrote somewhere, please don't let what I think is going to happen. And then I got to the end and I was like, well, literally threw the book on the floor and was like, I'm done. But yes, Renegade.
Okay, so for my next owl, I also did Defense Against the Dark Arts. So I read Revival, Volume 1, You're Among Friends. I don't know who it's by. Tim Seeley and Mike Norton. Very easy names.
I quite like the name of Seeley.
Yeah, so this is basically about, it's a really about small town. I think it's like in Wisconsin. And suddenly one night, all the people who have died in this town come back to life. Not like a zombie, so they come back to life. And there's lots of different types of ways. There's like levels, like some people are quite zombie-like. There's just sort of like a mystery to it, like there's obviously more going on. The town's basically been closed down by Homeland, what's it called, the CDC.
I don't know what that is.
The Centre for Disease Control. They basically.
Well, I hope they would be there.
They quarantine the town, and our sort of main character is like the local cop, whose like dad is the sheriff. She's got a lot to prove because she thinks, exactly,
from Teen Wolf.
And I thought this was a really interesting concept, a different take on sort of the zombie genre.
I hate zombies.
Yeah, I know, but it wasn't really zombies. The story's a little bit slow. I did take
two slow books, one after the other.
It did take a little bit for me to sort of get into, but I did really like it. I thought it had a really interesting sort of overall concept. I was very sort of like invested into what is happening, and so I just think there could have been a bit more. This is a 3.5 read. I did enjoy it. I'll definitely carry on because I'm definitely invested into how this happened, why this happened. So it's quite mysterious. I do like it. So if you like zombie stuff, a little bit of a different take, I would recommend it. Yeah.
But anyway, my next owl is Herbology, which is a plant on the cover. Which, does a tree count as a plant? I'm going for yes. And I read Every Heart Doorway by, I've heard people say her name differently. I'd say Seanan Maguire.
Seanan Maguire is what I've heard.
That one.
That's how I would say it.
I had an idea going into this, and this was not what I thought it would be.
You know what, when I read that as well, I had the exact same reaction. I was like, I didn't expect this, but I liked it anyway. Like, I was surprised.
Yeah, I don't want to be saying what actually, but I didn't love it as much as people loved it, but I assumed I wouldn't. I'm definitely interested, and I will definitely be continuing with the series, because I would like to know. Because the next books are about where people go.
What I love about this series is that it could go on forever, because they tell like side stories and like, well, this character used to do this and this is where they went.
And you don't get bored of the same characters.
It's not just one sort of long story.
Yeah. And even though things happen and characters you like aren't told so much in this stories, you still get
you can
more information on characters you like,
yes.
even though they're not main points in this.
Yes, I get what you mean.
Good sentence. So I gave this a 3.5, I believe. It's not on that page, so we'll just go with 3.5, and I will continue.
Okay, so my next OWL that I had to complete was History of Magic, which was read a book that is over 10 years old. So I read another graphic novel, because that's apparently all I read this one, and I read Why the Last Man by Brian K. Vaughan, and this is basically something happens and all the men die. They're no longer alive. And apart from our protagonist
and a monkey
and his monkey, which is also male.
Oh!
So this is a post-apocalyptic story. What happens when there's no men left? Men do, like, they're president, they're 90% of, like, the cabinet in the office. Like, the government have fallen apart. Like, jobs are... There's nowhere to go. Like, women have to take the reins. And so our protagonist's mum is one of the... She works in the White... But yeah, so she's part of that, and he's basically trying to get there to sort of go, am I the only one? Because all the phone lines are down. He doesn't know for sure if he's the only man left.
Okay.
But yeah, I was really interested in this from the beginning. Like, I was gripped. I had a few issues. It goes on, like, a bit of a like... It's told by, like, a male perspective about women to sort of, like, being all that's left. Like, we get it from the only male survivor. And it's kind of, like, a lot of, like, radical feminism in this.
Yeah.
And you think, that's not really... It's kind of outdated in a way. But I still really liked it. I'm still interested in the concept. I still will be picking up the rest of the series.
Cool.
I think it was a 3.5 or 4 stars. I can't remember. Oh. I'm really bad with remembering what I gave books.
I don't have a clue. My next one is also History of Magic, and I listened to the audiobook of Anne of Green Gables. Please excuse this hideous edition. I thought I would hate this book. So this is one of my new favourites. I loved this. The ending was a little bit rushed. You do get basically the whole of, like, from when she was adopted to when, you know, she kind of finishes school kind of thing. Yeah. And then the rest of her life is like...
Oh, yeah. So, like, end. They have, like, the book and then, like...
The rest of her life. So that was the only kind of issue. And I wish I could monologue like she does.
I love the way she talks in it, like her, like...
And having Rachel McAdams.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, read that to you. I think that that's part of it, because she did such a phenomenal job. So I 100% recommend the Rachel McAdams audiobook. Only from Audible, do apologise to those other users. But this is fantastic. Loved it. My
next OWL was Potions, and that is to read a sequel. So I also read a book in the Wayward Children series. I read Beneath the Sugar Sky by Shauna Maguire. This is the 3rd book in the series, and you go to confectionery, I think that's what it's called, where Sumi is from, who was in the 1st book, and basically at the school, someone falls out the sky, and everyone's like, what? And she's like in like a candy floss dress, and she's like, I need to find my mother, Sumi, and they're like,
wait, what?
Exactly. And they're like, she's dead, like, she's all...
That's
like,
a spoiler for the 1st book.
Yeah, no, that's what I was gonna say. So basically, they're like, she's like, but I need to be born, so she can't be dead because she's disappearing, a bit like Marty McFly in Back to the Future, like her hand's like gone. So they have to go on an adventure to try and make sure that she gets born and therefore doesn't cease to exist.
Okay.
So I think I do, because the last book I read in this series was so good. This one is a little bit disappointing. It's kind of slow. Cover. It is the best colour. It's really pretty, and I love the sort of the picture they painted of confectionery. Like, I'd want to go there. But yeah, so I love the characters that they have in this going on the adventure. I love sort of you get sort of 2 newer characters introduced where you get to learn more about, and then I think it was a really good adventure story. It's like a journey. It's like they all go off together to save lives.
Okay.
But there's a few moments that I'm just like, it's a bit dragging in this place.
And when it's this short,
exactly, you don't want it to drag. So I found in places it was like a bit dragged and then it was a bit rushed. So I thought the pacing was kind of off. But overall, I did think it was really fun and like, I don't know, a nice addition to this universe. So I gave this 3.5 stars.
My next owl was Muggle Studies, and you had to read a contemporary for that, so I picked up Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. This book, everyone knows what it's about.
I'm so glad you finally read it.
Are you?
Yeah, it's been on your shelf for ages. You're always like, I'm going to read Fangirl this month, and then you never do.
No, I never do. I've started this book before. It wasn't what I was vibing with, so didn't finish it. This time, thoroughly enjoyed it. I wish we had a little bit more in the ending.
Yeah, I get that.
I feel like we just kind of finished, and I want to know if she wrote her piece.
Okay.
I kind of just want to know, I just feel like the story was a little bit unfinished, and I'm not one of those people that enjoys, I like everything to be wrapped up.
Yes.
I don't like any loose ends or questions, and I felt like I was still questioning at this, but this was a 4.75.
Yeah.
Kath and her twin sister are very different, and they both go to university, and she's a fan fiction writer, and the excerpts, you didn't like the excerpts.
Yeah, but like, I didn't think we need the little passages from is it Carry On that she's writing in this? Yeah, I felt like they took you out of the story. They weren't necessary, especially when she's released it separately now.
Yes.
Like, I felt like she could have just saved it for that.
I liked them.
Yeah.
But I listened to the audiobook, and it was the reading of those was a different person.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Was a male voice where it's told by a female. The little sections at the end of each chapter were by a man. So it really did separate it for me. I could clearly tell the difference, but I do know if I read it physically, I wouldn't have been able to tell the difference. And sometimes I was really into the fantasy bit, and I was like, what's going to happen? And then I was like, wait, I'm reading a contemporary.
Yeah,
Nothing's
exactly.
going to happen.
I feel like it just wasn't, they weren't meant to be.
I feel like if we had a section at the end
with the, that
would
would have been really good,
that.
because I'd have just ignored it.
You would have, but I thoroughly enjoyed that.
Okay, so my final owl that I passed was Transfiguration.
Mine too!
And that you had to read a book with sprayed edges or a red cover. For this, I read Lock and Key Volume 1 by Joe Hill. I thoroughly enjoyed this book, like this graphic novel. I love the art.
I didn't know that.
It's amazing. It's glossy pages, don't worry. So basically, this family are like the victims of a brutal robbery and home invasion where this like psychopath basically murders like part of the family. So they move away to the Lovecraft Manor, which is like an old family estate.
That sounds like a good place to go.
Yeah, so they move up there, and it turns out that there's these keys that can open a door, and yes,
and a key.
Yes, and if you pass through the door, if you open it with certain keys, then it will take you, like it will do something.
Oh, that sounds
so
cool.
The one that they find, for instance, if you open it and pass through it, you won't like die, but you'll become a ghost that you can go around, and then you can re-enter your body. So it's got this really good mysterious element. We also have this other story where the man who killed the family and broke into their house has escaped from prison because the thing is that he knows about the keys, and he wants access to him because the person, part of the father who used to live here, who was one of the people who got killed at the opening. So he wants the keys.
He breaks out.
And he's sort of like now trying to find them in the manor. The kids, the youngest kid has discovered the keys but doesn't really understand them. No one believes him.
Oh my god, so he could be like a ghost?
Yeah, so no one really believes him because they're like, you're just grieving, you're pretending you're a ghost to be closer to your dad.
Oh, that's really sad.
So, yeah, there's so much going on to this, and it's short, but it just like keeps going. You're like, yes. It's really dark. It kind of takes some like quite dark turns. I enjoyed this. I gave this 5 stars. I cannot wait to carry on and see sort of where this story goes. So much mystery. It's like a thriller. It's everything I love.
It's not the cute art style that I go for.
No, exactly. This is like a much darker graphic novel.
Yes.
If you have not read this, I would definitely recommend it. Very, very good.
Good. My final owl is also Transfiguration. And I read A Court of Thorns and Roses. I said that really weird. 5 stars, phenomenal. You get the hype. If you've seen the previous video, I'm reading the next one this month. I predicted it 5 stars. Loved it.
So we both ended on a high.
We really did.
But
I'm very
even though
happy.
that's the first one I read.
Oh, this is the first one I read.
So we started on a high and we ended this video on a high.
Way!
So that has been our O.W.L.s Wrap Up. We very much enjoyed this read.
We did.
It's got so many layers to it. Book Rose has done an amazing job.
She really did. And we printed out
so much effort into it.
The guide. And it's just phenomenal.
It's so beautiful.
Thoroughly enjoyed ourselves.
Yes, we'll definitely be taking part in our newts soon, in a few months' time, so keep a watch out for that.
Yeah. I felt that these challenges were strange, but kind of easy to find books. I find a lot of readathons that I'm like, I don't have anything.
Okay, so thank you for watching today. Please subscribe to our channel if you've enjoyed what you've seen. We will link all our social medias down below. We'll also link Book Rose channel because she is the creator of this wonderful readathon. And that's it for today. We will see you soon.
Hope you had a lovely time on the Biblio Bestie channels. Bye!